Mike Bernard from Inside the Numbers joins us every Sunday morning to recap college football, take a quick look ahead at the NFL games today. Let's talk a little college. Mike, how you doing this morning?
Cold and tired, but ready for another day.
Exactly. I am with you 100% there. When you're sweating during the summer, you thought, man, it'd be nice to be a little bit cooler, but when you wake up and it's 20 degrees, you kind of miss that warm sunshine, don't you?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth from Vegas to Birmingham, and I can't avoid it. It's been cold, cold every place I go.
Well, we always talk about the pressure of November, and kind of a phrase seems like you coined a few years ago. Well, yesterday we saw a lot of pressure in November, and the big boys, they seemed to handle it kind of okay. Number 4, TCU with a walk-off field goal to beat Baylor 29-28. Questionable play calling right there at the end of the game by Sonny Dykes, but they just seemed very calmly, went out there, lined up, kicked the field goal, went home with a win. Number 3, Michigan, another last-minute field goal to squeak by Illinois, 19-17.
Yeah, TCU and Michigan, they escaped with wins, but neither covered. TCU avoided disaster with that mad scramble. You could tell, Coach, that they've rehearsed that in practice. That situation, it was actually pulled off very nicely. They had to rush that field goal unit on the field. Next up for TCU, Iowa State. And in the Michigan game, they were favored by 17. They could only muster 1 touchdown and 4 field goals. And Harbaugh made the tough calls that paid off. The announcers were saying, oh, surely he's not going to kick a field goal. But he knew the game, right? He knew the situation that, hey, he could get a stop, and that was his best chance. And next up for them, the big game, Ohio State.
Speaking of number 2, Ohio State, they were lucky to get out of Maryland with a win, 43-20. That score is really not indicative of how close that game was. And number 1, Georgia, it's kind of went through the motions up in Lexington, got that 16-6 win at Kentucky.
Yeah, number 1, number 2, they both win, but they both failed to cover. Bucks were a 4-touchdown favorite. They struggled the entire game. They got it. That you talked about it not being indicative of how close it was. They got a fumble for a touchdown with seconds to go just to make it 43-30. They win by 13. Their season finale is Saturday at home versus Michigan. Ohio State, they're going to be favored anywhere from 7 to 9 points in that game. Georgia, they were favored by more than 3 touchdowns against Kentucky, and they only put up 1 touchdown on the board.
Southern Cal, they needed to make a statement versus UCLA, and in my opinion, they did. They beat a good football team on their home field, 48-45. Caleb Williams, I think he put himself right up front in the Heisman talk with his performance last night. Tennessee, looking as we were looking at how things could unfold over the next few weeks, they had a relatively easy path to the college football playoffs. Well, now they have no path. Gamecock, 63, Vols, 38. Dang, Mike, I'm going to tell you, South Carolina, they look like the team that ought to be considered for the college football playoffs last night.
Well, yeah, Tennessee had the easiest path in the history of the playoff until it wasn't. I mean, look, I have no idea what happened to them. They were favored by 22. They lost by 25. Piss poor effort by everyone on that organization. And the benefits, the teams that benefit from that Vols loss, the Michigan, Ohio State loser, LSU, USC, TCU, probably Clemson even, potentially. And you talked about USC. They got multiple wins Saturday night. They beat the Bruins. Tennessee lost. Oregon beat Utah. And some people say, well, what does that matter? I just feel like Utah has already beaten USC, and they're more equipped to beat USC again than Oregon with a banged-up quarterback, although he looked very good. SC, they're done with conference play, so they're in the title game. They finished the regular season at home versus Notre Dame. It's not going to be easy. They're less than a touchdown favorite in that game. And remember, it's still November. The top teams up top, they're going to crumble. Yesterday, the top 5 went 0-5 against the spread. Of course, Tennessee lost outright as a big favorite. And Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan, they weren't even close to covering the number.
Next week, Georgia hosts 5-6 Georgia Tech. Dogs should win that game easily, but, they could still lose that game and then beat LSU, and they're still in the CFP at either number 3 or number 4.
Yeah, I think they roll Saturday, and they're in the same position they were last year. They don't have to win the SEC title game to get in the playoff.
Michigan, Ohio State, another meeting where both of these teams are ranked in the top 5. Actually, the 13th time that these two teams have met as top 5 opponents. First time since, I believe, 2006, though, that they've both been undefeated coming into this game.
Yeah, in that 2006 year, Troy Smith was the Ohio State quarterback. They tried to, it was BCS back then, and they tried to have a rematch, and that game didn't work out. Of course, Florida beat Ohio State that year. That game's at noon on Fox. You would think they'd put that game in prime time, but they always seem to put it as the big game or whatever they call that on Fox at noon. The Bucks' power rate higher than Michigan, but I'm going to say this: neither of these teams are as strong as the 2021 Wolverines or Buckeyes.
Iowa State has to travel to TCU. Listen, these Horned Frogs, they seem to be living a charmed life these days, but they better not overlook Iowa State. The Cyclones, they have 7 losses, but 7 losses by a total of 34 points.
Right, and 6 of those 7 losses were by 1 score. They shorten the game. They make it ugly, much like Iowa and Wisconsin do up in the Big Ten. But, hey, listen, TCU has shown they're okay with 1-score games. They're okay if it's 17-10. They're fine if it's 42-34. They have a confidence. They don't know that they're not one of the top 4 teams, right? They think they are, and they're playing like it. So win or lose Saturday, TCU is in the Big 12 title game, but it is kind of a trap situation. And listen, if K-State beats Kansas, then they're going to be TCU's opponent. And remember, in that first meeting in the regular season, K-State led TCU 28-10 in that game before TCU came back.
Yeah, they led 28-10 and was playing with their backup quarterback at that point in time after Adrian Martinez went down, I believe, in the first series, if not the first series, first couple of series. He goes down. Will Howard comes in, and they're up 28-10. Will Howard goes down, and that's when TCU climbed back into that game. 2 teams in good position to slide into that final spot. And again, we've got to, let's just assume that Georgia, TCU, and either the Buckeyes or the Wolverines, whichever wins that game this coming Saturday, they run the table. You're still going to need to fill that number 4 spot there. So first, let's look at the Southern Cal Trojans. As you mentioned, Notre Dame comes to the Coliseum this weekend. Now, in my humble opinion, no one in college football has improved more from week 1 to right now than Notre Dame has. Now, if the Trojans beat the Irish and then win the Pac-12 championship game, they've got a pretty good resume to stack up against Clemson. And, of course, Clemson's the other team. South Carolina coming off that huge win versus Tennessee. They're going to go into Clemson with a lot of confidence. The Tigers, though, they're in a good spot if they can handle this confident Gamecock squad. And the way that South Carolina handled Tennessee will help Clemson's case with the College Football Committee if Clemson beats South Carolina. But then Clemson, of course, will need to put away the Tar Heels in the ACC championship game. Mike, if both the Tigers and the Trojans end up with one conference loss, it's going to be a tough decision. That being said, both these teams, they don't just need to win. They need to have those dreaded style points that we always hear about.
Yeah, and it could be a case where chaos actually provides clarity, okay? TCU, they could lose to Iowa State or K-State. USC could lose as a small favorite to Notre Dame or in the Pac-12 championship game. LSU could beat Georgia and Atlanta. All those seem unlikely, but if those things happen, it's pretty easy. The winner of the Big Ten, if they beat a 4-loss Big Ten West team, then they're in, and then Georgia and LSU are in. And I think Clemson gets in if they win out. But again, there's so much, all the contending teams don't want to hear this, but this is the weakest field I've seen since the inception in 2014. And I'm not putting down schools. I'm talking, you look at last year's Georgia team versus this year's Georgia team. You look at last year's Ohio State, last year's Michigan versus this year. They're all weaker. It's not the same. We don't have any 2019 LSUs or 2020 Alabamas or, look, the Bulldogs from last year, they would be favored by 6 points over this year's team. That's just how it is. And, they got to find 4.
Yeah, they've got to come up with supposedly the best 4. I think this year, I think it accelerates the move to 12 teams. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, no doubt. And, and frankly, this might be the one year that, that 2017 season, you needed 12, at least 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This year, it's tough to find more than 3 or 4 that are deserving.
Yeah. Hey, hard to believe that every production meeting last week and all the way through Friday, we keep talking about the possibility, hey, there could be 3 SEC teams in the college football playoffs this year. Wouldn't that be something? Well, as of this Sunday morning, and this is barring a LSU win this week at A&M and then an upset in Atlanta, Georgia's going to be the lone SEC representative. And although I have even received a few emails this weekend detailing exactly how Alabama is going to get in the college football playoffs. And it's not just one email, several emails. And I was reminded to never count the Tide out of anything on this. But, Mike, I'm going to go out on the proverbial limb here and say you can count them out this year. Alabama is not going to the college football playoffs.
Yeah, it looks like the only 2-loss team with a chance is LSU. And they have to win at Texas A&M. I've ripped the Aggies all year, but that game's in College Station. Wouldn't it be fitting for Jimbo to play spoiler in that role? I mean, because he's just getting decimated, and really rightfully so. And Coach, I'm not, at least on air, not one to say I told you so. But in those production meetings, we showed, all the past history of this is what happens the last 2 weeks of November. So we don't want to get stuck on a narrative, but, and what do we know? And so here we are, and I don't think it's over with. I mean, I still think we have, a lot of, unwritten chaos to see.
I totally agree with you there. Let's look into the crystal ball a little bit. And I don't think anything's going to change this week in the top 4. We're going to have movement the week after. Of course, number 5, Tennessee, I think they're going to drop 5 to 6 spots. USC, going to slide up to number 5 and 6. I think, and LSU is going to be in there too in that mix. I don't know. I don't think USC jumps LSU, but it wouldn't surprise me if Clemson jumps Alabama this week for the 7th spot.
Yeah, I agree that the top 4 will not change. I mean, all 4 teams were frankly underperformed, and no one looked better than the other. The next 2 weeks, we know at least 2 of these top 6 teams are going to lose, right, because of head-to-head matchups. But I believe 3 or 4 are going to lose, making it even more difficult to find 4 worthy teams.
Yeah, and I'm convinced. I think when the college football committee, when they get to the point where, and I think they've got the top 3. I think they've got it spot on. I think Georgia and Ohio State, Michigan, I think they're the top 3 teams. And I think anything after that, it's almost like the committee playing the let's put this bait out there and watch the public go wild and create even more interest in our great college football playoff.
Yeah, there's I would agree. There's marketing to it and the hyperbole and that's part of it. But one thing that I'll mention is I'm glad that we're going to have 12 teams eventually. But we're not going to have these discussions of this manner once we go to 12.
Right. Yeah. The discussion then becomes number 13 saying we should have been number 12. That'll be the discussion.
It won't be the same. It won't be the same.
Not at all. All right, Mike, appreciate your time as always on Sunday, and we'll get back with you on the Morning Blitz on Monday and recap some NFL. And you have a good Sunday.
You too. Have a great Sunday, Coach.